Okay, welcome back everybody. Welcome to CMN103. Today I have Dr Uwe Terton as a guest speaking to us today about design and about all things creative. So the first thing I'd like to ask Uwe is, how would you define design? What is design? What is the difference between art and design? Are we all designers?
Very good question. Thank you, Gail. I would say we are all designers. We create things, and everything that we create is designed, is planned for a purpose. And sometimes the difference between art and design, that it flows. It's a spectrum. But most of the time, design is considered to cater for a specific purpose. And that could be a function, and you might hear from my accent, I'm from Germany, and we have something that is called that the design follows the function. But these days that can be possible, but on the other hand, it's also about looking pleasant and about making people feel good about a product, about a service. And design is everything. Everything you see and you have is designed by a designer.
So you've mentioned two things there. You've mentioned a functionality, but also an aesthetic. You said
Yes.
Makes people feel good or
Yes.
comfortable or looks good.
Yeah.
So it's the combination of the two?
Yes, it's certainly the combination of the two. In the past, and I'm a big fan of cars, and so when I look back at the 1970s, the Germans, they were making cars that were robust. In the English, they made beautiful cars, but they always broke down. So the Germans then thought, okay, how about we ask the English to design our German cars? And all German cars are designed in London. And so here is the combination of having a car that looks beautifully and also goes with your individual validity of a person to express yourself, plus always also the function of taking you from A to B without breaking down.
Yeah, so it needs to work.
It needs to work,
And it
of
needs
course.
to look good.
It needs to look good.
Or make you feel good.
And feel good, yes.
Yeah.
And so the question is, what does it mean to feel good? Yeah. So what feels, or like what I think is looking great for me might be different for you, Gail. And so the designer also is a researcher and looks into the consumer to figure out what are the trends or what could be a new trend in design. So who is a trendsetter? And often design comes from not the mainstream, but it becomes mainstream after a while.
Have you got an example of that?
Have I got an example of that? Yes. So back in the 80s, you might have heard of a pop star called Madonna, and and she was wearing a particular set of sunglasses. Other people would have said, "Oh, they are really, really ugly. They were big and bright and made your face look strange." But because she was a celebrity, so she was wearing those sunglasses, and all of a sudden everyone was wearing those sunglasses, and all of a sudden everyone thought, wow, those sunglasses, they look really hot and great and make me feel good.
So it's sometimes perhaps not the obvious aesthetic, it's maybe even the ugly or the considered odd.
That's correct. Or
gets brought in.
Or also youth movements. We had the punk movement, and so they started to rip their fashion items apart, like the pants and trousers, because they wanted to be the anti-social kind of expression. And so they disappeared. But now you can go into a shop and you buy a pair of jeans and you pay a lot of money and they have lots of holes in it. And you might ask yourself, wow, what happened to the function of the trousers? Because they don't keep you warm. Yeah? They make you freeze. And that's how it is with design.
So I remember once I bought a dress, I went to the shop and I bought a dress and I didn't have time to try it on.
Yeah.
So on the hanger it looked perfect, it looked nice.
Yeah.
Because I wanted it to be functional, I wanted it to be knee length, I wanted to be able to wear it to work, or I was kind of trying to fit into the kind of cultural environment and the sensitivity of what was around and sensibility of what was expected of me. So, you know, it wasn't completely long, it wasn't completely short, but it was functional.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, I like it, it looks nice, I'll buy it. But when I got home, it had this sort of cape top, which I assumed I'd be able to move my arms in.
Yeah.
When I got home and tried it on, I actually couldn't move my arms, and I tried to drive. So I remember sitting in the car, kind of trying to drive and change my gear, and I only ever wore it once.
Yeah.
Because it looked nice, but I could never wear it.
So here you go. This is the opposite, where then the way you thought it looks was hindering you into the functionality of the design of this piece of clothing.
I'd have been fine if I didn't need to walk or drive.
So basically a designer needs to walk the fine line to get this all right.
And so we offer design, obviously, as a programme.
Yes, that's correct.
And you're talking to students who've enrolled into the BCI.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there an opportunity for students within the Bachelor of Creative Industries to engage in design in some courses or a minor?
Yes.
Or how does that work?
Yes, so we offer 6 majors in the combined design programs that we are offering to everyone also in creative industries.
Brilliant.
And also minors. And so they range from graphic design, which we are now rebatching into visual communication, to electronic media, which becomes UX and UI, and I would like to talk a little bit about that later on. And then something we had which was called 3D design. But 3D design is a difficult beast. It could mean also everything that is three-dimensional, and you cannot teach that possibly in just 2 years. So we have focused back on animation, because in 3D design we had a lot of animation happening, 3D animation, but we also offer now 2D animation and 3D animation plus 3D object modeling. And then we have photography and fashion design.
And you can take some of these
Yes.
as electives too, perhaps, some of these courses?
That's correct, but I have forgotten, of course we have serious games, and within serious games we have game art, we have programming and game narration. I think I covered them all.
Brilliant. And so do I need, if I was a student, would I need any particular set of knowledges or skills before enrolling into these courses? Are there anything that I would need to know or be able to do?
No, Gail, all you need is an interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and be interested in learning new things and just go with what is thrown at you, and if you like it, then make it good, make it better. If you don't like it, then you have a chance to swap over to another major or minor and just test the waters.
Brilliant. So the design process then, obviously it's a creative process. How would you define creativity, or how do you engage in creative practice?
Yes, so I would say creativity does not happen just like that. I think we are all equally born, and some people might think, it's all in the genes, so I have a little bit of a different opinion to that. I think it is what you are exposed at, and also the sources of inspiration. So if you like watching movies 24/7, so this is obviously something you do a lot, and you get a lot of inspiration from watching movies. And if someone comes along, like a teacher or an academic, and teaches you how to analyze those movies, then sooner or later you will be able to make your own movies. And you combine the love that you had in the first place with movie making, with actually learning how to make movies and create wonderful movies. And it's the same with designing for print, or designing for the web, or making web applications, or an animation, or a computer game, anything.
Yeah. So you've got to have that interest.
Yes,
and that
definitely,
passion,
definitely.
and then you can learn the craft.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it an iterative process? Can you get better at it?
Yes, of
and
course.
How do you get better at it?
Of course, it's like a person that makes a chair, a furniture. Yeah. So you build a chair, and it's supposed to have 4 legs, and you end up with 3 legs, and you sit on it and you fall over, and then you get a little bit disappointed. And I think also being disappointed is part of the learning, and also failure is a big part of the learning. And then there's encouragement. So you might get encouraged by your teachers or by your peers, and they say, don't give up, make another chair. And you have learned something in the process of making your first chair, and you reapply it, and it becomes easier. And of course you look at other chairs and other chair makers, and we have the internet, and you Google and you YouTube, and you ask your peers and your friends, and wow, you try again, and this chair is much, much better than the first chair, but maybe it's not perfect. So it takes time and it takes practice.
And not to be too disappointed then. But
Yes.
it's interesting, you said something earlier and it hadn't occurred to me before, but it's almost okay though to be a bit disappointed because it means you're invested.
Yeah.
It means you care.
Yes.
That you've really put some emotion and some consideration into the product or the
Yes.
work that you've done.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's quite normal
Mm.
to be disappointed.
Yes.
But not to dwell in it for too long.
Yes, that's right. Otherwise you become too frustrated and you might lose interest or the love for something. And because it's a creative area, you might also get exhausted after a while. And then you need to take a step back and get a break and relax and get more inspiration by traveling around or going and seeing an exhibition and then come back refreshed. So what we do in our program, we offer our students to go to the design conference that is held in Brisbane every year, and the students, they come back because they are inspired by their design heroes who often are not much older than themselves. And this is a great thing. When I was at university, most of my heroes, they were 20, 40 years older than myself. But now young people, they can become so famous so quick and successful. It's amazing. Yeah, you can do and become everything you like. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on that last point because this is the same for, this is not just designers now, I'm talking to all of you as creative beings. It's really important that you replenish. You can't just keep practicing and keep doing, especially if you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So if you're a drama student, go and listen to some music.
Yeah.
If you're a design student, go to an art gallery. If you're a musician, go to a book launch or a poetry reading. It doesn't actually have to be in your own discipline, and sometimes I think it's often better for it not to be, because it extends those possibilities, because you know a certain way of practicing, a certain way of doing and thinking, and then you get exposed to this different kind of creative practice, and it enriches your possibilities. You go back to your work differently.
Yeah, good point, Gail. And so previously we had those major strengths in design, but in general, design today, it's a holistic approach, it's an interdisciplinary approach. It is that scientists work together with creative people from drama and dancing and painters and performing arts and musicians, you name it, together with designers that we might call applied designers that make something for a client, and together they come up with a totally new concept that never ever would have been thought about before, and that's where the magic is happening.
Nice. So that requires collaboration.
Yes.
Which, you know, we all know as creative artists, we need to collaborate, we need to work with.
Yeah.
What advice do you give students, you know, in terms of how to learn to be a good collaborator?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, especially when you come from high school, and at high school you collaborate, there's teamwork, but most importantly in high school it's about your grades and it's about your OP and your individual success. But as you rightly said, in the creative industries, in design, it's all about teamwork. And take your ego a little bit back, I would say, and be a team player, just like playing team sports like soccer or footy. Only a good team will win. And I have worked in the industry, I had my own company, and we always employed people that had great team skills. They could collaborate with others, and not so much people who were geniuses in their field, because they became sooner or later a big problem, because their ego was so big they were not able to work with others, and so the project became a failure.
Yeah, so hone your skill.
Yep.
I'm not saying don't hone your skill and be excellent in your craft, but obviously what we're saying here is just as important.
Yes.
To listen to add to collaborate with.
Yeah.
So it's really tricky, because we want you to have confidence in your abilities and your skills, but we also want you to not have that ego. That's quite a conundrum, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good to have an ego, because your own ego drives you to success. But to be aware of your ego and say, all right, my ego can sleep now for a while. And later on I can let it out with other work where it's all about me. But teamwork is important. And in today's world, only a successful team will go forward. Think about a movie. 500 people work on a movie. And if one person becomes the main focus of it, it puts the team on risk, and that's not what you want.
So one last question. Most of our students are home in their first semester or first year.
Yeah.
They've got this exciting kind of maybe 2.5 years in front of them. What advice would you give to an emerging creative industry artist?
Yes, take any opportunity. Over the past maybe 20 years I'm teaching in tertiary education. The students who took opportunities that were extracurricular, something that was outside of your coursework and your classes, that got them ahead of the pack in regards in getting a job later on, because that gives you hands-on real-life experiences. So any opportunity that is given to you, either from your friends or your family or someone you know, or even within the university, we have lots and lots of projects, especially research-related projects, where we need students to help us with. Just put your hand up and say, yeah, great, I'm in, I do it.
Yeah, it's like that. The more you put into something, the more you get out of it.
Yes.
And those connections you make too.
Oh, yes.
You know, every time you do a project, you meet somebody who's going to offer you another opportunity or introduce you to somebody else.
Yeah, very important. And also work integrated learning is important. We heard that previously. And I got 2 jobs. My 2 first jobs I got out of work integrated learning while I was still at university. So the first one was I worked as a photographer for Germany's 2nd largest newspaper. And then the second job, when I did my master's, and that was also work integrated learning, I got one of the first e-media jobs in Germany out of that, and that led to finding my own company, which was successful for 6 years. So take that opportunity.
Yeah, take everyone. So
thank
you very much for watching and engaging with us today. Thank you very much, Uwe, for coming along and chatting
You're welcome.
today. Okay, we'll speak to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.